Hi, Mark. Once again, here we are with our videos, these insights, tidbits of wisdom, as they could be called in our authentic leadership journey as consultants and as coaches for fellow entrepreneurs and companies, organizations, and those who know that the results of their actions are a direct result of being more themselves and how they can care and connect with their team members from a place of authenticity. And we have decided to do these videos first really prompt by the questions that we received from our clients and friends around this subject. And we are picking a few of those who seem to really resonate with more people in the community. So yeah, we received a really one that felt a little bit more vulnerable. And we'd like to dedicate some attention to that. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you read it out, then we can get started.
Yeah, fantastic. Amazing. So this one says, there's a little disconnect between my work and myself. I feel like I need to constantly generate enthusiasm for what I'm doing. Want to get to the bottom of that and see if I can change the narrative or the work itself. So yeah, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I love the question. It sounds like the asker has some degree of insight already into the situation because they seem to suspect that they need to change narrative or change a job. So that's already pretty good. Um, so a little bit about the issue in and of itself. I think that there's a really common misunderstanding, which is that this person is just amazing and that person's not very good. Let's say we're in a company and we're observing people doing their different jobs. I think that there's another way of looking at the same thing, which is the person who's firing on all cylinders has a degree of alignment with what they're doing, and the person who's apparently not performing is there is a lack of alignment in what they're doing.
Mm,
People have affinities for there's things that people are brilliant at, and there's things that people are less brilliant at. And if you're doing stuff that you're not so brilliant at, then you're gonna resist it internally, and you're gonna perform less. Um, so the idea is to find a situation you can put yourself in where you're not internally resisting a huge amount of what's you're gonna be doing in your day to day.
mm,
So generating enthusiasm in an artificial sort of way is also resistance in that process, and you're going to drain yourself. And it would be a good idea to look at that. So what I would recommend is um, the specific role that you might be in requires a specific type of person. And if you find that you haven't got loads of energy, it's because a lot of it is being lost through in a resistance to that. So it's likely that a self-reflection on what you like doing, what matters to you. Then there needs to be a sort of a recognition of the deeper interests, and you can ask yourself the question of what sort of activity gives me power, gives me strength, energizes me, and there's going to be an activity out there in the world that's very similar to that or exactly that. So the task here is to align what you're going to do in the day to day with who you are.
mm,
So that was my main recommendation. An interesting potential consequence of this is that by doing the analysis of what one likes doing, what do I like doing, what energizes me, it's very often possible to find those same perspectives in the job that you are already doing. And then you end up going back to work on Monday, energized, doing the same thing with a different perspective, and then become that high performing employee that seemed so out of reach before because everything seemed so difficult to do. This is possible. I've experienced it in my own life.
mm.
So yeah, those are my first thoughts, Adriana.
Okay. So you mentioned something about being aligned with the work you're doing. You mentioned something really like this. You call this who is the person that you require to be in that job, and do you feel aligned? Is actually someone you want to be, or it maybe that requires so much energy that you don't find being able to source from from other areas of your life. And then you speak about changing perspective. So actually coming in on Monday, doing the same job you did last week, but because you change that perspective, you go from being someone without the enthusiasm to someone who is actually high performing. Um, do you have any idea of things that can help people change that perspective?
Um, so for this one, it could be fun to speak to a best friend, and this is the kind of best friend who's not going to then tell you what you need to do. This is the best friend who knows that their role is to listen and maybe remember back, reflect back, and then you sort of discover yourself through that process, what you want to do.
Mm.
Otherwise, I'm always an advocate. This is my personal preference of locking oneself away in a cabin isolated. This is my go-to. It just works. So
Yes,
yeah.
I know. And you know, it's so interesting because I am so familiar with you mentioning that practice. And also, I'm very familiar with my reaction, which is I take a big laughter whenever you say that. It's so lovely. And it's because I do believe that. I don't have the circumstances in my life that yet I've created to go isolated in a cabin in the mountain and very attracted to that. But I do honor the self-reflection. It's all that I do, or one big part. And so what I'm hearing as well, so you say is like, okay, so actually changing perspective is necessary
Mm,
at the moment. The person we're talking about, and maybe many of us have some kind of experience of going to work, actually have made some choices about the work we are doing. We took responsibility. It's not someone is imposing us to be in that job or in that with that responsibility.
mm,
Maybe we have actually created that job for ourselves. And then how can I be at work being myself? And it's such a big effort, right? With for what I'm doing. And so you speak about changing perspective, and there are ways that really support. One of the
mm,
things you said is don't really, you can talk to a best friend, but this best friend is not the one who's going to tell you what to do. And this is where, so for example, it reminds me there's a big skill that I love to teach. We incorporate in our programs. You and I
mm,
do that to each other, with each other in our meetings. We think that there is a necessarily way of listening and reflecting and being in conversations where we are not being told what to do. And that is the job of a good coach as well, because that generation of ideas, that inquiry around what's happening, coming from within, is the portal to come up with a different perspective. I also add something here, and this comes from my background in well-being and really long-term effects of factors of our environment and our lifestyle in our health and well-being. There has to be some kind of an environment. We have to take into consideration the environment in which we are, not just at work. So at work, definitely, if you can identify, like Marx just said, if you can identify areas of your work where you can find that energy, yeah, go for it. Stimulate, encourage, create. Take responsibility. Okay, this work, sometimes you need to do stuff that takes away more energy than it brings back, right? It's part of the process. And yet, can I generate activities that bring me some energy to compensate? Can
mm,
I generate that energy within me because I know better where I'm going, because I have a goal, right? Because I am doing this, I am more in connection with why am I doing my work? So there's these two different levels we can work into changing our perspective and generate energy. But also don't bypass the importance of other factors in your life, like other relationships, what you're eating, the amount of fresh air you get, the foods you get into your body at certain times. So all of that can support your system to be healthy, to be enthusiastic, energized, to rest well, to sleep well, so that also that will help you to change perspective. Changing perspective is not just a mental activity, it's very much a body activity. There are things we can do like connecting with others, love, sex, good foods that can help us to generate the good conditions in our bodies to be more prone to change a perspective for a better world. So I think those are a wide range of things you can do so that you can have less effort generating the energy, the enthusiasm for what you're doing. And then finally, you're changing the narrative, or maybe the work itself really doesn't fit you. So it may be time to say, hey, actually, let's rewind, let's reset. And like Mark said, what is that I really want to be doing? Right.
Mm. So I'm tempted to suggest for the asker of the question or for anybody else who's trying to decide whether they want to stay in the job or leave, I can suggest the questions that I might follow. So first I would ask myself something like, what role would I carry out if I was unlimited? So the point of this question is to forget the company that you're in, forget whatever, and what would you do if you could carry out any role? Um, and then I would invite writing as much as possible here, add all the details, go crazy. Um, and then I would consider, okay, I actually don't live in that life. I live in the one that I currently live in. What aspects of this perfect scenario can be found within the setup that I already have? And this is the process that can lead to what I mentioned earlier of you might find that you can already do your dream function in your existing life, or at least quite a lot of it. And then, as Adriana suggests, you can complement with activities outside of your life. And you can build this in a thought process or in journaling. And if you find that you can't, then that's when you say, okay, time to have a different job because I cannot build it in my current life. And if that feels true, if that statement feels true, then yes, find a new job. And there's your opportunity to get something that hits the target.
Absolutely, exactly. Saying no to something is opening the doors for a beautiful yes to come in. I love that. Okay, thank you so much. This was a little snippet on this subject on how to generate energy and enthusiasm for the work. There's so much we'd like to share. And as you know, we bring this kind of reflections and insights to everything we do together as a team in what we call authentic leadership and connection in the workplace. So we really appreciate having your feedback and knowing more of what are your ideas and questions and curiosities so that we can continue these conversations and bring more food for thought for collective growth, really. So yeah, stay in touch and see you very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.